Hello again. Today, chicken. A lot of my chef friends have told me that one of the easiest ways to separate cooks from non-cooks is, can you make chicken? Because chicken is fucked sometimes. It's really easy to dry it out. It can be tough and flavorless. It doesn't have as much of the fat as beef or pork, and so it doesn't automatically have flavor. So it's one of the ways you can tell people who can and people who can't. But we're gonna fuck that up today completely, because this recipe is unbelievably easy and it will make the best roast chicken you've ever had. I got it from Samin Nosrat's book, Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat, which is one of the best cookbooks you can ever read. It's not even a cookbook. It's not about recipes as much as it's about how cooking works. And it's easy to read for anyone, and it will give you an idea of like what goes on in the kitchen more than just a bunch of recipes will. I could recommend it to anyone, and she came up as a chef at Chez Panisse, which is where I grew up eating and where Immer was a waitress, so you should check it out. This is her buttermilk roast chicken, and it begins with a buttermilk brine, which a brine is something which is a combination of salt and a liquid, in this case buttermilk. And by sitting a meat of any kind in a brine over a period of time, salt is one of those things that moves across cell walls. So it'll go from a place where there's more salt. Nature wants everything to balance out. So if you have a place where there's more salt and a place where there's less salt, it's going to migrate. And by putting salt on things and letting them sit for a while, you can do this with beef too, the salt will migrate through the cell walls into the meat and flavor the meat. You can flavor meat much more with a lot less salt than you would if you had to put the salt on later. People will tell you not to salt until the end to make sure you need it. And that's a good rule in some ways, but the truth is you can use a lot less salt to get a lot more flavor if you put it on early, but there's no taking it back. And one of the great ways around that is by brining, because the salt will move through the cell walls into the interior of the meat over time, and it will also bring with it liquid and fill those cell walls up, because salt retains water, and it will fill those cell walls up with liquid so that when you cook it, it doesn't dry out, which for something like chicken is a really good thing. This is also a great idea for turkeys. It's why people make brines for their turkeys on Thanksgiving, because it makes it kind of a no-brainer. So, I'll be back in a minute. We're going to get our chicken and some salt and buttermilk, which I think are the only three ingredients in this recipe, which is why it's such a great recipe. And we're going to make buttermilk roast chicken. Bye.
All right, so you gotta wash your hands a lot around raw chicken, for one thing. So like, I took this out of the package, washed my hands again, then realized I wanted to dry off the stuff on the plate. I had to wash my hands again. Now I'm going to use some salt. You just don't want to spread this crap all over the place. There could, you're probably fine, but there could be, it's raw food, so you want to be careful and keep your hands clean. First thing you're going to do is just take some salt and just kind of coat the chicken with it. Just kind of want to give it a good layer of salt so it can start absorbing it. Salt will move, I don't know if it's osmosis exactly, it will move through the cell walls though and permeate the chicken, which is how you flavor chicken over a long period of time. Salt, it's just what it does. It moves from one side of a cell wall to another, from a side where there's less salt to a side where there's more. So I'm just going to put it up on a shelf for a bit and just let it sit for a half hour. Okay, half hour sitting there, and then move back. All right, it's been about a half hour. So get yourself like a gallon plastic bag, and I don't know the exact amount, but just grab a handful of salt into the bag. Buttermilk, it's a quart. You need about a quart. You want to shake it up because there's a lot of solids in buttermilk that get, otherwise they just sit in the bottom of the thing. You're going to pour it in here, but first, well, I guess I should pour it in here. Some of it anyways. Should try and dissolve some of that salt. So, going to dissolve the salt in there, and then I'm going to grab our chicken right here and put it in the bag. So kind of flatten it out in there,
pour the rest of the buttermilk in. And then seal it up and get as much of the air out as possible. There, so you got a bag full of buttermilk. I'm gonna dry off the plate I had it on before. Just kind of wipe it off with a towel. Sit that on this. I'm gonna put it in the refrigerator till tomorrow sometime. And then we'll cook it. So you wanna leave it at least overnight. You can leave it a couple days. The longer you leave it, the more it marinates. The buttermilk is gonna help. The fat and the proteins in it will move through the cell walls with the salt, and it will flavor your chicken and put all this moisture in your chicken more than anything before you cook it. So roast buttermilk chicken tomorrow. Just to remind you once again, after you touch chicken like this, wash your fucking hands, okay? That's all. All right, about an hour before you want to cook this, you can take it out of the refrigerator and just dump, maybe over the sink, pull it out of the brine, the buttermilk. You don't really need to do anything particularly exhausting about cleaning this. Just kind of wipe it down, maybe with a paper towel. There's no need to get too involved. Wipe it a little off, because the buttermilk's fine cooking on the chicken. It doesn't do anything bad to it. Kind of crisps it up. I don't really know if you need to even wipe it at all. I often don't. You want to get a rimmed baking pan like this one. Just put your chicken on it. That's it. Let it sit so it gets closer down to room temperature. That's all. And wash your hands. You gotta keep washing your hands because it's still raw chicken. All right? It's also not the worst idea after handling stuff like raw chicken to, take a scrub brush and wash your sink. Just scrub your sink, rinse it down. It's not a huge deal, but it's not the worst idea. And go and preheat your oven to 425 degrees. And get it ready. Okay, we're gonna put the chicken in the oven in a second, but before we do that, a couple things. First of all, make sure to turn it so it's breast side up. I forgot that before. But then also, take the legs and point them diagonally towards, so they'll be at the back left corner of the oven, to the left. And then we're gonna put this in the oven. Temperature's at 425 now. And you want the chicken facing so that the legs are at the diagonally towards the back corner of the oven, all right? And the head is pointing towards the front. And then we're gonna close it up. Set a timer for 20 minutes. Okay, after 20 minutes, you just wanna lower the temperature to 400. And then set a timer for 10 minutes, all right? I should add that it's not a bad idea to take some twine and tie the legs together. It helps things stay moist and helps the extremities and the breasts not dry out, but I'll be honest with you, I forget to do it every single time. I don't think I've ever remembered to do it, maybe once. And this comes out as moist as could be, so I think with this recipe it doesn't matter a whole lot, but it's not a bad idea in general to tie a chicken's legs together. All right, I just wanted to tell you. Okay, so it's been cooking for a half an hour now. And so what you want to do is just move it so that the legs are now pointed at the right back side of the set your timer for 30 minutes or 25 if you want to check it a little early, which you can. It's just kind of making sure that it's getting cooking evenly this way. Okay. That has been another 30 minutes. It's a full hour now. It's a pretty beautiful piece of chicken. Just gonna set it down here to cool off for a while. Well, just to sit. You want to let meat sit for 5 minutes or so, 10 minutes after you cook it, so that the juices have time to settle. Otherwise, they're just
they'll just fall out. When you cut it open, they'll just lose all the juices. So give it a chance to reabsorb things for a few minutes, and then you've got roast chicken there. Really, and it's pretty simple. So hope you make it. Alright, as you can see, that is extremely juicy and ready to be eaten. Personally, I can't wait. Can't wait any longer. Yeah.